At 14 minutes after 8, this is Morning Express, and what a heated debate Sophia had there on the way it is. I can guarantee you it was not choreographed. However, it is time for us to get inspired right now. And today on Lifestyle, we have an inspirational story from Mr. and Mrs. Mwangi. And before I bring them in, drug and alcohol abuse is something which is becoming a prevalent problem in this country. And it's a conversation that we must have because it's on the increase. It is in schools, it is in homes. The thing is, it does not also discriminate. It's not for the poor or for the rich. It goes across the board. And once you're an addict, well, you're more or less a slave of that substance or that thing that you abuse. And how do you get out of the cycle? How do you stop becoming a slave? And after you've come out of that cycle, what do you do? And well, Mr. and Mrs. Mwangi have not only come out of the cycle, but they decided they'll not stop there. They'll do something about that. And that's what we're going to be having that conversation about. Remember that you're allowed to participate. You can share your experience. You can let us know if you're struggling and possibly if you're looking for ways out, or maybe you have solutions of how you manage to overcome. The conversation continues on Twitter, and that's at Michael G. Gitonga and at Sophia Wanuna. But at this point, let me bring in Bernard Mwangi. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
And we also have Judy Wamboi Mwangi, Mr. and Mrs. Mwangi. Yes. Right, let me start with you, Judy. And maybe you can just start by sharing with us, first of all, your experience. How did you get into drug abuse, and what, first of all, were you abusing at the time?
Okay. I started using drugs after I finished high school, and I went to college and I was working. I met a Nigerian guy who was doing drugs, and that is how I started. So what happened, when I was growing up, nobody ever told me they loved me. So when I met this guy, he showered me with a lot of love and a lot of money. So I did not care what he was doing. So one day I came home, and there's a lady we used to house in our house. She's the one who used to be sent like to Pakistan and get the stuff. So I came home one day and I said...
In this Nigerian's guy's house?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because when we met, I moved in immediately. So
how old were you at the time?
I was 24.
Okay.
So I came home, I said, last night I didn't sleep well. And the lady told me, just have a puff of this and you'll sleep like a baby. And for sure, I slept like a baby. But that one puff led me to 5 years of hell.
What was that you puffed?
That was heroin. And I used heroin for 1 year without knowing what I was using. I just used to know the street name, Staff. So
S-T-U-F-F?
Yes.
Okay.
You used to call it Staff. It has like 10 names. Kono majina mingi sana. So so the following day I wanted to have the same feeling I had yesterday. Heroin is a highly addictive drug. So I got hooked so fast. Eventually I stopped working. So I just used to stay in the house, smoke and sleep, smoke and sleep. But now the stuff was just in the house. So my life got worse when this guy went outside the country and he was jailed. So what happened, I started stealing from myself. You know how you steal from yourself? You start selling your stuff. So
just for you to get hold of the stuff?
Yeah. So first I used the money he had left for me, and then I started selling my stuff. It was kind of a barter trade. The lady I was buying the stuff from is the one who took my things. Alikuwa nakuja ananiambia kama like if I take this fridge, I'll give you like 2. That time, 1 gram used to go for 1,800, and 1 gram is something like this. You just smoke it for like 5 hours and it's over. And
that 5 hours is you smoke kidogo, you stop, you smoke again? Or is it like 5 hours of you just...
You smoke, you sleep. We used to call it kuyoyoma. You smoke till you yoyoma. You smoke till you yoyoma.
Yoyoma means you just black out?
Yeah, you just black out.
Okay. So
it went on like that. I sold everything, and then I decided to go back home. So when I went back home, I didn't have a relationship with my parents. So even when I started going astray, they did not realize. But there's a tablet we used to buy over the counter from the chemist. It's called, street name is Bugizi, but it's called Rohypnol. it's used to sedate people. So my tongue was always blue. So I went home, I met my uncle. I was totally high, but I was not smelling of alcohol. So he realized there's something wrong with Judy. So he told my mom, and when my mom asked me, I didn't deny. I said yes, and then my mom didn't know where to take me. She took me to Mathare Hospital. At that time, at Mathare Hospital, there was no rehab. So nikawekwa kwa wazimu. So I used to be given those dawas. So one day my mom came to see me, and she brought me a Bible. So she told me to write my name. I could not figure out how J is written. So I asked her, Mom, J is written like this, am I like this? So she was like, hey, it's like she's getting worse. So with that, I managed to manipulate her to get me out of Mathare. So when we left Mathare, you know, when you get into addiction, nobody teaches you some things. Basically, your life stops. And you become a pathological liar. You're not responsible for your life. So at this point, I had already manipulated her. I told her, we must go to town, because she told me, I'm getting you out of here under one condition. You'll agree to come home with me. So I told her it's okay, but you have to go to town. I get my clothes, and the woman who is keeping my clothes, I'm owing that lady 1,000 bob. So she gave me 1,000 bob. When we came to town, I just left her. I went to smoke. So after 2 weeks, my sisters, they came looking for me, because my sister used to work around Nyamakema, and I used to smoke down there, Grogo, Nuko Chini. So she came looking for me, and she told me that my dad is looking for me, and he wants to take me to a rehabilitation center. So I went home. I was taken to the first treatment center. I stayed there for 3 months, and normally, if you're using hard drugs, you're supposed to stay in a rehabilitation center, at least minimum time, 6 months. So after 3 months, I managed to manipulate my parents again to get me out of the treatment center. So they got me out. I went home. I stayed for 9 months, and then I came back to Nairobi.
Okay. Maybe I'll pause you right there before we go to the rehab center and continue this conversation. Now, normally with drug addiction, from what we understand, it's normally progressive. You start maybe with smoking, just your kawaida smoke, then maybe go to something like marijuana, not marijuana, what do you call it? Marijuana. And from marijuana, then maybe you now start abusing hard drugs. Did you graduate straight to heroin?
I started with heroin, and I got stuck there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let me come to Bernard Mwangi. Yes. What's your story?
My first encounter with alcohol was when I was 5 years old.
5?
5.
How did that happen?
My grandfather, he has a pub, and he lives on top of the pub. So every Sunday we used to have, after everybody has gone to church or they've done their own things, we used to meet there on a regular basis. So the men used to do their thing, that was sit down, smoke and drink. This was the 80s, so we can talk about some things where, I think there was lack of information basically. And the women were doing their thing, sitting around the kitchen, talking, lots of tea. So for me, seated on my father's lap, I stole his drink, took a sip. In fact, finished.
Was he away or was he seated there?
I was seated on him. I'm like, daddy, daddy, put it down, sipped again.
Do you know what it was? Was it beer?
It was mainly spirits.
Okay.
I remember distinctly because I went to nursery school the next day with a very, very bad headache.
Can you imagine going to nursery school hangover?
So going onwards, the feeling that I felt at that particular time was awesome. Felt like a man. I could now finally identify with a group of people by doing an activity that was enjoying to them. It did not matter whatever class, whatever age they were in, we could sit down and we could do something together. So I used to yearn for that opportunity every time to connect with these men who are my relatives until today. So nearly every Sunday that we used to go there, I used to sneak a drink or two. So,
How old were you?
When I was doing it very consciously, I was around 12, 13, 14. I bought my first packet of cigarettes when I was 13 years old. Luckily for me, I cleared primary school quite early.
And first of all, before you go from there, where did you get the money from?
The money for a packet of cigarettes?
Yes, at 13.
At 13, bus fare. I used to go from where I used to live to town. So I either walk part of the way or something along the way.
The way of just getting the money. And did you buy it yourself, or did you have?
I bought it myself. Okay. It was those ones of shopkeepers, I think until today, do not even discriminate. They think children are being set by their parents. So when we went on forward, a phenomena happened. It's called tolerance, whereby the drug that I was using at the moment, that was cigarettes and alcohol, were not doing the thing for me. So I started experimenting elsewhere. So I checked into Form 1. I started on Bangi and did lots of Mira. And fortunately or unfortunately, my mom is in the medical profession. So she has these medical textbooks. Some of them mainly about drugs. And because she's in the medical profession, so everybody from upcountry used to come to Nairobi and stay at our place when they're going maybe to Kenyatta Hospital or maybe any other referral hospital for treatment. So there used to be lots of medication around the house. So my first foray into medication was cough syrup.
Wow.
Cough syrup got me high, thoroughly high.
You must have taken quite a huge amount.
Just a bottle. This bottle, just this much, got me so high. I had lots of codeine, which is a compound which comes from the same heroin plant, poppy plant. It is from medication. So experimentation throughout high school, luckily for me, I passed high school well, not that well, but well. You can imagine it, suspensions, not being in school, Then the first teacher strike, which was quite massive. I had a whole year to read, luckily for me. So in between getting high and reading, because there are no teachers in school, I was able to pass. And I was luckily went directly to a university.
Okay, let me come back to Judy. Here you are now, your mom has found out, she's gotten involved, however, you're still hooked, and finally they decide to check you into a rehabilitation center. Did they manage?
Yeah, they managed to take me to the first treatment center. I went to rehab, and as I said earlier, a drug addict is supposed to be in a treatment center at least minimum time, 6 months. So there I stayed for 3 months, and then I managed to manipulate my parents again to get me out of the treatment center. And I went back home. I stayed for 9 months.
What was your story for them to take you out?
I told them I'm well now. You know, when I was in addiction, I was dark, and then I was so thin. So when they came to see me, I had added a bit of weight. At least we could sit down and talk. So I told them I'm well, and they believed me.
Okay.
So I stayed home for 9 months, and then when I came back to Nairobi, I had reservations because when I went to Mathare Hospital, when my mom realized I had a problem, I was taken to a doctor, and then the doctor is the one who realized I was using heroin because I was told to bring a sample. So when I was told I'm using heroin, I was like, heroin is not a bad thing. See, Akina Whitney Houston use heroin. So I had reservations. I was thinking, I was not sure if I wanted to cheat or not. But now, when I came back to Nairobi, remember this guy is not around. I have to hustle for myself. So I started stealing from people, manipulating the people I know. And then I got to a point whereby I could do anything for money. So that is when my life went down kabisa. To a point, nilikuwa nakosa pahali pa kuishi. Downtown, where they sell the stuff, kuna lodgings whereby you share a bed with somebody. You pay 50 bob, you share a bed. It got to a point I could not even afford that 50 bob. But sometimes I used to go and stay with the lady with the lady who bought my stuff, the lady I used to buy the stuff from. And why she was allowing me to stay with her, because I'm the one who was tasting the product for her when like the drugs come from Pakistan and wherever. So in fact we used to call it lab. So I'm the one who used to taste for her if it's a good product.
She was not
or
an abuser herself?
No.
Okay.
It's even by the grace of God I did not die. So my life went down, and I got to a point I wanted to commit suicide. So I said, I'll go to a hospital and get tested. If I'm HIV positive, because of the way I was living, I was almost sure I'm positive. If I'm positive, I'll just commit suicide. If I'm negative, I'll look for help. So I went to Aka Hospital, and I was tested. And the guy who was testing me, you know, the way you're cancelled fast before you're tested. So I told the guy my story, and when the results came out, he told me to check. I was so much afraid. I wanted to walk away, and then he told me, "Don't walk away. It could be the biggest mistake of your life." So I even manipulated that guy, and I asked him, if I check, will you give me 100 bob? I remember that day I had not smoked, and he said yes. So I checked. I even forgot what he had told me, if what positive and negative is. I told him to check for me. At first he had refused, but he checked for me and he told me. When the results were negative. So whatever the 100 bob he gave me is what I used to take myself to a rehab. I knew a guy who had opened a rehab. So I went there. I didn't even have a phone when I got there, but at least I knew where it was. I told the watchman I want to get in. So the watchman called the owner, and I talked to him on phone. I told him, if you don't allow me in, I'll just stay here till I die.
That was now the rehab center?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll come to you, Bernard Mwangi, and before I come to you, Judy, what is it that brought you to that point, that tilting point, where you actually now wanted to take charge of your life? Because obviously you mentioned earlier that you had the feeling you really don't want to change, but something brought you to a point where it's almost like you hit a brick wall and it knocks your senses back in and you want to live. What was that thing that made you get to that point?
There's a night I spent outside with a soldier to Kyoto to Moto, and I was tired of that life. I don't have a place to stay. I had messed all my relationships with my parents, with my siblings, my friends, because I had stolen from them. You know, like if I meet you, I know you. Yeah. I borrow your phone, I pretend that I'm making a call, and then I run away. So basically I had no life. So that is when I got to a point whereby that time now I wanted to commit suicide, because I was tired. I was tired, totally tired.
So that night, as you
life.
sat with the wochi there, with the fire, you looked and reflected in
Yes.
retrospect and decided something has to happen.
Something has to happen, because I was like, I'm sleeping outside. I can't even go home. We have a home. I cannot even go home. I've hurt everybody who loves me, from my parents, my siblings. So I said, now this is it. It's either I die or something happens.
Okay, sounds a bit like a story told in the Bible of the prodigal son. Says that he came to his senses. Now, Bernard, you're now in school.
Yes, I've checked into Strathmore University.
You seem to have been doing well.
Yeah.
And your parents were supporting you. Did they know at this point that you were
They knew there was
addicted?
something that was off, but not really how much it was.
What was your relationship with your parents?
With my dad, it was quite bad. With my mom, it was quite okay, but she's tough. That's one tough lady. So luckily for me, she's one tough lady, or I don't think I would be alive.
Okay.
So so we went on forward. It got so bad that I couldn't even finish the degree that I was doing at Strathmore. So I dropped out. So my dad decided, let me employ this guy. So upon employment, I looked at his company after like 2 or 3, 4 months down the line. he decided also to enroll me into KCA. And so I was going to KCA, going to work at his place, go home, but still find time to go and get high in the evenings or during the weekend. So at some time it went on well, and then I was checked into Nairobi University to do a Bachelor of Commerce degree while still going on with accounts at KCA.
And at all this time you're still abusing?
It's not abusing, that this is proper addiction.
Now you're in it. Okay. How are you funding it?
I've become a bit of a criminal, shall we say. Used to steal from my dad, from his clients. I steal some of his clients, do some of the jobs myself. He was doing real estate, but the part where I was really managing was a part for renovations. So I'd either misquote or underquote or overquote whatever materials will be there, or take side jobs. I go and supervise them during the day or during the free time that I had. So you'd find like, there's a time I did calculations. At the end of the month, I had like maybe 200K that I should have saved. But still, every morning after I've gone out, I'm still going to beg for cigarettes at the kiosk. So went on like that and still had to drop out from both KCA and Nairobi Uni. I dropped out from the workplace. This time my mom had already left the country. She has been working out of the country for a very, very long time. After that, my dad also left too.
Okay, maybe in the interest of time, because there's also the angle I want us to look at where we can help, especially parents.
Yes.
Because most of this happens as they're watching, but they're sometimes too busy. But before we get there, what is it that brought you to that tilting point again, where you thought, I need to take charge?
I can say two factors. Number one is Mr. Mishuki.
The late?
The late Mr. Mishuki.
How did he do that?
I had lost everything, even contacts. I can't do business. I've now become a practical criminal. Now I was in the matatu industry. I was in Makanga. Wale wanaitwa watu wa squadi. So one of the things that kept on happening was that I kept on getting arrested because Mishuki had now come to enforce his rules. So I got arrested Monday, I'm out Wednesday, Thursday I'm in, Friday I'm in, Saturday I'm in. It got to a point, I just knelt down at the police station. I'm saying, I'm behaving like a crazy guy. God, take me to Mathare Hospital. So came out again, went home, chilled out kidogo, and I got arrested for assault for a very old fight that happened a long time ago. So while that was happening, my grandfather came to know about it and he bailed me out of the whole mess. But I didn't stay home even for 2 hours. I was arrested again. Now it was a culmination of every bad thing that I think I've ever done in my life was poured on me. So to keep the long story short, I ended up in rehab. What you call, I was in cells for about a month. Those were the days when there was no due process. This police station to the next police station to this police station, CID headquarters, this police station, that. Case was being followed up. So luckily, I was able to be taken to a rehab center by one of the CID officers. So this is just a plain story of addiction, which was quite...
And who was paying for that?
That was my mom.
Okay.
Who paid for it. And it was quite lucky for me because even that police officer could know that this person needed rehab, and we're talking about the year 2003, 2004. So I checked into rehab, but I check into rehab with my own ideas. I'm only doing this so that I can get something practical to do. So I refused to enter classes, I refused to do sessions. So for the first 2 months, guys get me, I see them doing sessions. I was the first client in that rehab. These guys are doing sessions, guys are doing things, I'm wondering. Then there's this other guy. He runs also another treatment center. I don't think he even remembers. He came to visit. And I gave him my story and he said, "You're an addict." Why were you addict? I'm wondering, this guy called me a bad name.
You mean all this time you didn't think you were one? You just knew it's normal to
get high. It was it's a social lifestyle. It's a lifestyle disease.
Okay. Judy, let me come to you in terms of now. You've mentioned this word severally, manipulating. And I think that's one of the characteristics that drug abusers perfect the art of manipulation. And I'm sure there are many parents who probably would be watching, and maybe their children could be abusing, and the unfortunate thing is that they find out too late. What are some of the telltale signs that you would give parents that if you see your child going this way, then the alarm bells are definitely going on, the lights on your dashboard are red, stop the car and check?
When your children start demanding for money, when they start lying, when they start isolating themselves from the other members of the family, they just want to be alone in the room. Or when you see them maybe starting to use brushing their teeth all the time, maybe they're trying to do away with
a smell or something.
A smell, or using eye drops to clear the eyes, because normally when you start using, your eyes are red. And what else?
You could tell us some of the things you used to do, especially given that your mom, you said, was a tough cookie.
She's a tough cookie. She is, and still used to find ways to go.
So how did you manage to manipulate her and to hide?
One of the things that addicts do best is to divide and conquer the family. Like, let's say, for example, I need 200 shillings for bus fare, so I'll come and ask her for 200, I'll come and ask you for 200, I'll ask her for 200, I'll ask another person for 200. So at the end of the day, I have 1,000 shillings. So all of them know, we have said, yeah, this guy for bus fare, but you have funded his drinking for the next 2 days.
Wow. Okay. So if a parent maybe has a child who has an insatiable desire for money, it just doesn't end, then that should be a telltale sign.
And it's not making sense as to where it's coming, where it's going. Another telltale sign is also they start losing their responsibilities. Like if they're supposed to go to school, they drop out of school. Their relationships with boyfriends, girlfriends goes off. They stop going to church, so they just stop doing stuff, and they remain with maybe one thing that they're really proud of. Maybe I do music and I really loved music. So you find this person listening to music from evening till morning. And also another last one is the switching of the hours.
They become nocturnal.
They become nocturnal, yeah.
Okay, Judy, you mentioned that one of the things that you did not have a healthy love from your parents and your possibly your family. Do you think that's one of the things that drove you that way? And in that case, what would parents do to ensure that they short circuit that their children don't feel unloved to a point where they're looking for love in the wrong places?
I know parents have been told to be friends with their children, but there's one thing I tell parents: be a friend and a parent, both of them. And you must show your children you love them, because you might be loving your children but you don't show them you love them. Appreciate them. When they do something small, appreciate them. Even if just make sure they feel at home and they feel loved. Yeah, showing them love.
Okay, so that's being a friend.
Yeah.
How do you become a parent? Is that in terms of correction?
Yeah.
Okay.
If a child does something wrong, you make sure you tell the child, and even if it means you punish that child, not harshly, but according to the age of that child.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Bernard, what is it that maybe, apart from the fact that you had access to this alcohol right before you, you mentioned that your relationship with your father was almost non-existent?
Not non-existent per se. It was more, I would say he was more dictatorial, but I would say it was mainly because I wasn't also open myself.
Do you feel like it pushed you further into the abuse?
Not really. It's a choice I made.
Okay.
At the end of the day, it's a choice I made. One of the things that really went against me was I had generations of people before me who were alcoholics and addicts. I have uncles who were addicts. My grandfather was a gambler.
Wow.
And was an alcoholic. He quit. My uncles, the same thing. Now it's down to my generation, my cousins, me. And we hope we don't pass on the same thing.
What are you doing to make sure you break that cycle? Because one can almost feel or think it's a generational curse.
One of the things that we need to understand as a nation and also as a community is also some of the factors that contribute to alcoholism and addictions is also genetic. So the biggest thing that we need the biggest tool that we have is information. So we need to get this information down to the grassroots everywhere, and that's part of what we do.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll come shortly to what you're doing because I can see time is also moving. But how did you guys meet? Did you meet in the industry?
Okay, you'd like me.
I'm sure she'll give us more detail.
She has more detail.
The first time we met, as he says, because I didn't even realize, I didn't even notice him, they were reaching out to me. That was before I went to the first treatment center. The second time, they were reaching out to me. And then him, when I was in addiction, he was already out, and he was working in an organization whereby they were helping addicts.
Okay.
So sometimes I could go there. So the second time we met, I was clean. Yeah, so that is how we started dating. He dated me for seven. He gave me 7. He dated me for 7 times. I bounced him 7 times.
Meaning you are dating and you break up, or?
No, like we met.
We make a date.
We make a date. I don't even save his number, and I disappear.
Okay, for you it was just another guy out there.
So the last time he asked me, "Where are you?" I told him I'm in town. So he came, and that day it made a difference.
What kept you persistent?
She's beautiful. She's wonderful.
But you knew her story by then, or not?
Yes, I knew her story, and it didn't deter me. Another thing which I felt was very, very important was that she knew where I was also coming from. I wouldn't have to really explain myself to her.
You didn't have to worry about the baggage.
Because I already knew her story. She already knew this guy's an addict. So there are these commonalities which
Wasn't
are
there a fear that you could relapse, especially now that you're a teen?
Yeah. Now, with many couples that you have seen also that meet after recovery, the high chances of relapse are there.
You didn't have the fear to?
We had.
Okay.
We had.
All right. Now, majority of the people who overcome drug abuse and drug and alcohol addiction normally are happy enough to just get a job and, wave goodbye to that lifestyle. But you've decided to do something different, and maybe you can tell us what you're doing about now the situation, especially with our youth.
Okay.
I love the fact that every time I ask, you have to.
Consultation.
Consultation.
Yes. Basically, luckily for both of us, we were able to be, I would say it's mentored by other people who were before us in the same industry, counseling or addictions treatment in general. So my first job was actually my first proper job, being employed completely. Wachana kazi ya mjengo, kazi ya matatu and everything. Was in a outreach community. It's called Nairobi Outreach Services Trust, basically which reaches out to heroin addicts, which was us going to the streets, talking to guys, do not inject like this, do not smoke, bring down your usage. You could try to get guys on an outpatient basis to quit. That's how I met her. So for her also, when she was coming out of treatment, she was also mentored into doing counseling. So we have worked in this industry. I think now for me it's this 11th year. For her it's which year? 8th? Ninth. Yeah, 9th year. So we have been progressively from organization to the other, to the other, to the other, until we felt that there is much need for us to also do it the way we feel that it is best.
To reach out to those who are unreached. So you've opened, you have a rehab center.
Yes.
And what, is it like rehabilitation for all sorts of addicts, or do you deal with specific addictions?
It's mainly conduct and drug disorders.
Conduct and?
Drug disorders.
Okay.
You find that some people have issues with shall we say, food addictions, drug addictions, or stealing, or kleptomania, or gambling, which basically you can use the same program to deal with them. So, and then unfortunately for most people who are in addictions are not only addicted to one thing, they're addicted to
many other things.
So we get to tend to sort out the whole situation.
Okay. Judy, yeah, go on.
Another thing that made us open a rehab is that rehabs are quite expensive.
Yes,
like the second rehabilitation I was in, they were charging 225,000 per 3 months. So we felt if at least we can open a rehab whereby at least the common mwananchi can afford. Yeah.
Okay.
That is not too high.
All right.
Yeah.
As we wind up, Bernard, what is your message to anybody who is abusing drugs right now, who feels possibly they've lost hope of even trying to? Because I know that's one of the things that probably happens, that when you're a slave to this thing, you reach a point where you despair and you think, you know what, it's okay. Let me just continue.
The first step of taking charge, because basically most of the times you feel so lost here, everybody's taking control of you, the drug is taking control of you, of taking charge is looking for help, looking for professional help, not just help, professional
help.
Yeah. And another thing is also reach out to the family members. Whilst doing that, a process will start in which they'll be able to get the amount of help that they need. Yeah.
Okay, Judy, your maybe closing comments?
If you're in addiction and there's always hope, I normally say if you're alive, God has a purpose for you. So whatever you're going through, there's always a solution for that. We say addiction is a disease, and when you're sick, you go to a hospital. So when you're an addict, you seek professional help. Yeah.
Okay, and maybe a word to the parents.
This, as we have called it,
or guardians.
It's a disease. It doesn't only affect the person per se, it affects the whole family. So the whole family is dysfunctional. So while also the person you're asking and looking for information and looking for them help, you also look for help yourselves too, because we get cases whereby the client comes out of rehab very well, but also the family member is ill and they cause inadvertently the person to go back to using. So it's the whole family unit should go and get some help together.
All right. Yes. Thank you very much. You wanted to say something very briefly in just a second.
Mostly addicts, they're the last people to know they have a problem.
Right.
So as a family member, if you realize somebody in your family has a problem, always seek for professional help. They'll direct you.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much for sharing your story. We really, really do appreciate, but we'll have to wind it up right there because time is up. And Sophia, inspiring story right there.
Inspiring story, and we thank the Mwangis for joining us this morning on the show. Always great when people have gone through whatever it is, but use that to turn around the script going forward and helping other people. So we thank them, and thank you everyone as well for watching the show today. Always a pleasure. Do have a lovely day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Person of Interest is a must watch, but I'll keep it to ourselves up until tomorrow.
Yes, it'll be a secret till tomorrow, so you must join us tomorrow. Have yourselves a wonderful day. Take care.